The Met Police today are being asked to open an investigation into him. John Healey, the Defence Secretary, was talking about taking away his medals from the Falklands. We know there's a story in the Sun today that he's tipped to vanish from public life and live in a six-bedroomed Abu Dhabi palace with Fort Knox-like security. He's been erased by almost everybody and everything. And I just want to say this. I completely agree with all of that. I find him loathsome, entitled and an idiot. I think he has fueled the debate about the royal family and its future. But I do believe also it's all gone on him. There must be other people involved. I don't think that's an unfair comment, is it?
Well, it does seem to me that from looking at the Jeffrey Epstein whole issue, that he does seem to be the low-hanging fruit here.
Yeah,
that he's absolutely the one who is put up and, you know, he can deflect from maybe all the other stuff. So maybe one or two people in America are going, phew, Andrew's taking all the flack for us and distracting everything for it. We're even getting President Trump making statements about it, so, and what impact it's having on the royal family. So it is, but if you just take that aside, Andrew has brought on this all himself.
Yeah,
and
completely agree.
And there's no. And I have to say, yesterday I was with Andrew Lowney at something in my local town of Stratford at a book festival, and he had a sellout audience listening to him. And there is not, I mean, the court of public opinion is absolutely against him. And there's no two ways about it. And he's got no way back. So, as Andrew Lowney even said yesterday, and I think he's quoted in this Sun article, he could go off to the Middle East and there would be no question answered about his lifestyle. So that may be a better option, because maybe the people of Norfolk don't want him there, holed up in Sandringham. So if he's just secreted away behind closed doors in a palace in Abu Dhabi, that might be better for him. But all the same, his life has just gone, you know, by his own actions. And I'm not, you know, he has brought about this himself.
And I want you to know, I completely agree with that. I just think we both are making the point. He is the lowest hanging fruit. Met Police investigation, Congress demands for that. Do you see either of those two things happening or not?
Well, I think there is now, he's, I suppose, a quasi-private, well, he's a private citizen now. He's now just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, although talk of stripping him of his Vice Admiral title. He could be Commander Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, because that was his official rank when he served in the Royal Navy. And when you get to Commander, I think you're entitled to keep that title with you because you have served, and he legitimately got to that level. But yes, I can see something happening in Parliament. I think one of the reasons why he was stripped of his Prince title by the King is so to avoid any questions in Parliament. But there might still be questions about the financial arrangements of the whole royal family setup. How are they managing the properties? What is going on? Not just about Andrew, but also others. What's the arrangement with Beatrice and Eugenie with regard to Kensington Palace? There are all sorts of questions that may be being asked, and the Crown Estates and everyone have now got to look very closely, because we are talking about, and you probably are this morning, all the people having to tighten their belts, the talk of the tax rises, and everyone living in strained economic circumstances. If the royal family are seen to be living a gilded life and not actually paying what is due, then I think that's not a good look for the royal family.
Couldn't agree more. And just to finish, and I think that's right, it then begins this whole debate, and I think that's probably why the King acted, you know, about the legitimacy, wrong word, the future of the monarchy. And there's only one other thing I want to say. We threw it out there earlier. It seemed pretty swift from we're not going to do anything to you've lost your title, you're out the house, your absolute history. Do you think they think something big is coming down the road, Belly?
I think they've just got to their wits' end, but I don't think it's the end of the story. There is no two ways about it. They're trying to control the narrative. And you look this week, it's a big week for Prince William. He's off to Brazil, the Earthshot, the COP. He's representing this country. They want to see some positive headlines about the impact.
I wonder how much of a carbon footprint it costs to go to Brazil, but there we go. That's just my opinion.
Well, he flew in a scheduled British Airways flight, so there's no private jet. So that is one of the reasons, and I think British Airways actually sponsor are involved in the Earthshot. But I think the important thing is he wants to be seen to be exerting the real positive influence of the royal family, which is the royal family on a global stage, because it still has an impact. But he doesn't want to see more lurid Andrew headlines, which is a total distraction. As we saw, the King had to, when he went to see the Pope, that got lost.
There's so much to say about this absolute horror over the weekend, isn't there? I mean, we've had a number of contributors this morning on talking about wanting to arm themselves. And, you know, that really is terrifying. Is that where we've got to in modern Britain, that people are talking about having to carry some form of defensive weapon? I find that deeply disturbing. And I also find it very understandable because, you know, I was back in the UK. I'm now back in the Middle East, where, frankly, I feel a whole lot safer than I would in the UK. I was back in the UK for only 5 days last week. And during that time, there were 3 absolute horrors. There was the unbelievable bloody stabbing of an innocent dog walker who is tragically dead. There was a court case about another horrific crime that all came to a conclusion that involved an asylum-seeking related incident. And now we have this, which happened as I was flying out of the country. And yes, it was a particularly horrific week in the UK, but there does seem to be a growing pattern of horrendous violence. Now, I've looked into this quite a lot in recent months over what the statistics show. And there's a lot of dispute about that, isn't there? You know, is Britain becoming more violent, and so on and so forth. What is very apparent is that knife crime is a growing problem, I think. And what we don't have, mercifully, is as much gun crime. And to put this in perspective, I was thinking back, and you'll remember these awful cases, Jeremy. I was thinking back, you know, are things getting so much worse? You know, horrific mass casualty events, are they a new thing? And actually, I could remember from my own childhood 2 horrific things. There was, of course, the Dunblane shooting, in which 16 little children were killed and their teacher. That was in 1996 in Scotland. And there was also another one which made a deep impression on me as a young teenager, which was the Hungerford massacre, in which 16 people, again 16, were shot dead. And in the wake of those absolute atrocities, gun laws in our country changed. You'll remember, you know, the whole issue around the ability to own handguns. And that's an improvement. And mercifully, we don't seem to have those.
Well, I tell you, let me jump in for a sec, because as you know, the wife doesn't usually get involved, but she was straight on the text at 6:25 this morning, and she made a really salient point. You just said it about gun crime. She said it about acid attacks. Acid attacks were suddenly 3 or 4 years ago, everybody was having acid thrown at them, and they brought in, I think, statutory penalty sentence much greater than ever been. I'm not saying they've petered out, but you're certainly not hearing about them. I am sick to death of being told that, you know, if we stop and search, it's going to upset this group or that group. Here's the thing. I don't care, said it before, about the colour of your skin, your ethnicity, your religion, your creed. I don't care what colour you are. If you're carrying a knife, I think you're a threat to our society. If I was carrying a knife and I wasn't carrying a knife and I was stopped and searched, I wouldn't be angry. I would, and I'll tell you the other thing I would do. I would make sure that the sentences were longer, they were statutory, and you served the whole bloody sentence. And your partner said not an hour ago on the show, and he's absolutely right, not only should we build more prisons, but we should deport foreign criminals so we've got space to put scumbags who think it's okay to walk around with a knife in the clink to stay in the clink. I don't even understand how there's a debate about that, Isabel. I really don't. Simple.
Well, I of course agree with everything Richard said on this. You know, we have to have a zero tolerance approach to carrying of knives.
Yeah.
And the opposite seems to have happened. And, you know, Richard didn't actually mention on the show with you this morning that he himself was peripherally involved in a case in which a young man was carrying a machete through the streets of Boston on a Friday afternoon. And I want to understand why that, in that case, the young man concerned was found not guilty. There's a picture of him carrying the machete. There was a 999 response. I don't know why that ended the way it did, but it raises some questions and certainly provides us an insight into the challenges that prosecutors and police face in actually changing anything on this front. If you're not found guilty after wandering around the streets of suburbia with a machete, and you're definitely not a sushi chef, then I don't know what you are found
Sorry,
guilty.
you know more about things than I. Are you saying that sushi chef... I can't even say it. What's a sushi chef? Does a sushi chef use a machete?
Well, they do use very, very, very long, sharp knives, Jeremy,
Right.
but I think I'm going to stick my neck out here and say this guy was not a chef.
No, I think you might absolutely be right. So listen, lots of response to that this morning. I really appreciate it. The other thing, just very quickly an opinion, and then we're going to change it a little bit. Why is it not terrorism? The government said this is not terrorist. We got the CPS definition. It's not the Crown Prosecution. It is the Crown Prosecution, so we don't believe a word they say. This is their definition of a terrorist. The actions included are endangering a person's life other than that of the person committing the action and creating a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public. It's a terrorist attack, isn't it?
No, I'm not as caught up on this as you are, actually, Jeremy, and we're very much in the realms of speculation here anyway.
Yeah, I
but
know.
the bit you missed out there, I think, is that the act has to be motivated by a political...
Religious, racial or ideological cause.
Well, that's the crucial thing. And I don't think it really helps to say it's terrorism. I mean, we all know that everybody was terrified, but terrorism is about an ideology. Now, we don't know what lay behind this, but my own suspicion strongly is that this is a kind of Valdo Calacane case. This person is probably a paranoid schizophrenic, and there will be all sorts of questions to ask about mental health services.
Do you think we'll find out in the next few days that the authorities knew about him and he'd slipped through the net, as we usually hear? That'll probably happen, won't it?
Well, depressingly, probably so. But I think it's not that helpful to fixate on whether it is or isn't defined as terrorism at this point.
I'll tell myself off. Miss Oakeshot's told me off on a Monday morning. Right, now, listen, this is very, very important. The man that controls this empire, I'm not going to name him, thought it would be a good idea to launch Virgin Radio Christmas on the 1st of November on Saturday.
What?
Which is utterly ludicrous, Denny.
Ridiculous.
The 1st of November, I've got to spend 54 days listening to I Wish It Could Be Christmas. Now, you're not a Scrooge, you've got children. Richard called me a miserable sod. Where do you stand on this? How early should we start this madness?
I do not want to hear Christmas songs now. Please spare me. I mean, my kids are starting to talk about putting up Christmas decorations. Here in the Middle East, of all places, in Dubai, the shops are full of Christmas things. No, stop it. Go away.
Brilliant.
Do this.
While we're on it, you Scrooge-like Carl, I love it. Fireworks. There is the serious side to this and a light-hearted side. We've got fireworks night on Wednesday. Diwali's been going since October the 20th. I've got a baby and they go off the whole bloody time. People with pets are saying they're a disgrace. People are saying they're like explosives. We've got countries full of people with... Where do you stand on fireworks? Look at this video. This is on social media. A bus in Birmingham coming under attack from fireworks. They hit a car. I mean, look at that.
That is awful. But actually, in general, I'm incredibly up for fireworks. I love fireworks. I think they're great. And I think someone who's tired of fireworks is tired of life. But when they go off at an angle, and I've been at a fireworks display where that happened, it is actually very frightening. I mean, no one's saying that extraordinary footage is in any way okay. But in general, more fireworks, the better.
So are you going to do they have firework displays in the Middle East?
Not of the kind that you're talking about.
I'm going on Friday to the school one.
No,
Baked potato, toffee, apple, the whole 9 yards.
I love all that. Absolutely love all that. And I don't think, to go back to your Christmas question, surely Christmas shouldn't begin until well after Guy Fawkes night. It needs to be sort of second half of November at the earliest.
There, the woman has spoken the truth. She's told me off about my terrorist definition. She hates Christmas that early like me. She loves fireworks, and she thinks we should definitely do something about the appalling knife crime in this country. Pete, this mass train stabbing, just off the top of my head, for me, fear, terror, fear, absolute fear. I told the story about Henry last night on the train. Where have we got to in this country, mate, that this is becoming the norm?
Well, we're beginning to hear those testimonies from people who were trapped in that steel tube with no way of escaping this bloody rampage. Yes, the fear that must have been going through people's minds, absolutely dreadful and astonishing. I'm afraid knife crime in the UK has become far too prevalent. We've had empty promises, including those from the Prime Minister, who vowed to make this country safer and manifestly has not. Knife crime is an absolute epidemic. I am hoping that the 1st of November 2025 will prove to be a watershed moment when both the government and police chiefs, the length and breadth of the land, go, enough is enough. We have too many people, hard-working, ordinary people who pay their taxes, go to work, contribute to society, living in fear. And that cannot be allowed to carry on. We need robust action. We need forthright action. Some might even call it draconian. Quite frankly, I do not care. There now needs to be an unshakable pledge from government and police to make Britain safer.
I couldn't agree more. But again, I don't want to be the cynic in this, right? You say you hope, and I think that's the word you want to hold on to, that November the 1st, 2025 is a seminal moment. You and I believe that would be the right thing to do. Do we actually think that'll happen? I'm telling you, I don't. I think that stuff that you've ingrained in me over the years we've worked together is what's relevant here. More policemen and women on the streets, on train platforms. I don't know. Intel. Who are these people? A social care system that allows... I mean, this guy's not normal. Patent, he's got major issues. Why is he at large? Stop and search. You talk about knife crime. Oh, we can't do that. It'll upset people. I don't give a toss. And when you get caught with a knife... My wife texted me at 6:30. She's raging down on the coast. She said, longer sentences for knife crime that act as a deterrent and you serve the bloody time. You're not let off. None of this. This is becoming the norm, Pete, and that's the tragedy, isn't it?
Yes, and let me rewind, if I may, just 2 short years to the 13th of June 2023, when a murderous piece of garbage by the name of Valdo Calacane went on a knife rampage in Nottingham city centre. He murdered 2 beautiful students, Grace O'Malley Kumar and Barnaby Webber, and took the life of a man who was nearing retirement, Ian Coates, much loved by anybody who ever had the pleasure of meeting him. He also, by the way, seriously injured a number of other people. That case caused huge disquiet because the police made a massive error. They did not test his blood at the time of his arrest. Consequently, toxicology evidence could not be put forward. That, in part, allowed Calacane to claim diminished responsibility. He now languishes in a psychiatric hospital when, of course, he should be rotting in a prison. It may be, and I say maybe, that there are similarities between that case and this case, insomuch as that they both appear at face value to be absolutely senseless rampages.
Yeah.
We still have to wait and see. But now, at around about 7 o'clock, this man has been in custody for some 36 hours. The police will now have to apply to a court if they want to detain him for any longer, or they will have to charge him. I'm sure it'll be the former, as they seek to, because they've got such a huge job on their hands to gather all the evidence. We will wait and see. But what we do know, what is undeniable, what is appalling, is the levels of knife crime in Britain in 2025.
Why do we not have government? I mean, I know attack can't, because London's a disgrace. It's a cesspit of knife crime. Why do we seem to make excuses? Why, you know, my wife doesn't usually get involved, but she says give a 25 years mandatory sentence if you carry a knife, you stab somebody, you're not allowed out. Why do people in power not have the foresight to go, we need a deterrent here? We need a deterrent that says, of course, people will jump up and down and say, oh, well, you know, he was mentally ill, right? Well, he should have been dealt with then, because if you think it's the norm or it's going to be okay for this to happen, what does it say about our society? Is it weak policing? Is it weak government? What is it?
There's a combination of factors coming into play here. One, regrettably, is that our prisons are virtually full, so there isn't the space to lock up people.
Build some more then. This does my head in every single day. Don't allow people to be let out to, what is it, window dressers, the Labour Party. Go, oh, I want some space in my prisons. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to let you out when you've only served a third of your sentence, because that will give me space. No, build some more instead of giving money to France for the migrant situation.
Mr. Keir, you are preaching to the converted here. If we could build Nightingale hospitals in the blink of an eye, I'm sure we could put together...
That weren't used, Pete. That weren't used. I think I told this story once on Drive Time. I lived in Windsor at that time, and the Princess Margaret Hospital is a very famous hospital in Windsor, and the government paid the NHS Trust there £10 million during COVID to basically take over 90% of the hospital. 4 people ended up in there.
Yeah, well,
we
could build some Nightingale detention facilities fairly promptly, I'm sure. And I don't care if the army patrol it with acres and acres and miles of razor wire and snarling Alsatians, as far as I'm concerned. We really need to do something very, very seriously about this. But there's also another huge problem. Remember a woman who called herself a Conservative by the name of Theresa May, who got elected Prime Minister. And basically, she has done more damage to policing and the criminal justice system than anybody else in this country. She took out 20,000 policing jobs and told the police to rein back on stop and search. And that was supposed to be a Tory. We have had, of course, vast numbers of lunatic lefty politicians who say rein back on stop and search. It's prejudicial. It's unfair. Well, that, quite frankly, is nonsense, because it leads to more knife carrying and more bloodshed.
Can I just jump in, because I did this the other day and I completely agree with you. We were talking about the grooming gangs, and I was saying that I don't, and I'll say it about knife crime, I don't care the colour of your skin or your religion or your ideology. People with a knife should not be at liberty. And we need to get away from making an argument about race or colour or creed. I don't care if I'm stopped and searched and I haven't got a knife. I'd say that's the police doing the job. I'm being completely honest here. If stopping and searching gets knives off the street and leaves our kids safe, isn't that the answer?
It most certainly is. And I'm sure that most reasonable people, no matter what the colour of their skin, no matter what their faith or background, would completely agree with you and I. They want knives off the street. They want to feel safer. They want Britain to be a better place in which to live.
Can I just ask you quickly about Actually, let's play a voice note quickly. Kate on the knife attack. Morning, Kate.
Terrorism Act needs to be changed ASAP. All them people that train terrorised by one man now, wielding a knife. Children will have been on that train, and they're not calling it a terrorism act. Well, it is, and it is in the eyes of every decent law-abiding citizen in this country. So they need to get their act together.
I just think she sums up what we all think. Listen to this from Alan in St Albans, Pete. I travelled on the train last night and thought, how could I protect myself of passengers on each carriage? He says, and I realised there are 4 fire extinguishers. I would urge anyone to familiarise yourself with where they are. It might be able to slow them down enough. But overall, my feeling is of fear. This country's broken. It's true. That's what people think. It's not over-egging it.
And Alan echoes exactly what I've been saying, actually, for a very long time, because I am increasingly contacted by people, and I am increasingly told by people that I have the pleasure of bumping into in the street or wherever I go, that they are living in fear. Fear courses through the veins of millions of British people, and it is a government's major responsibility, primary responsibility, to keep its citizens safe. So I want to hear this week the police mobilising in numbers like they did for the disturbances after Southport, 5,000 or 6,000 police officers on the street, and I want them out there, and I want them, if it moves, stop it.
I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something contentious. By the way, good morning to John, who says the government can no longer protect its citizens. Non-lethal self-defence aids need to be made legal as soon as possible. Did you see what Shabana Mahmood said? Did you see the quote? She said, you know, it's very worrying and please don't comment at the moment. Let us get on with our job. It's up there on the screen. This is an extra... I'm deeply saddened to hear about the stabbings in Huntingdon. My thoughts go out to those affected. 2 suspects have been immediately arrested. No, 1. I'm receiving regular updates. I urge people to avoid comment and speculation. Now I'm going to say something that probably won't go down well with all sorts of people. You just made the point, Pete. You want to see a mobilisation this week. You want to see our police on the streets trying to get the information. That happened after Southport, but I felt at the time that it sort of fitted the rhetoric that Starmer wanted, which was all those people are far right. You have to do it across the board. You're absolutely... People are in fear. If you sit on a train and you're looking over your shoulder, it is like New York in the 80s and 90s. It's frightening, man. Totally frightening.
And I have a far more apposite example to put forward to you. The Metropolitan Police, on its own almost, mobilised some 6,000 police officers for the Notting Hill Carnival.
Yeah.
That was the Met alone. Let me see this kind of mobilisation replicated the length and breadth of the country. Get out there, officers. The officers will be happy to do it. Stop it, search it, and if there's a knife, throw that person into custody. Britain needs to be made safer.
Rachel Reeves has arrived. Let's do it.
My budget, led by this government's values of fairness and opportunity, and focused entirely on the priorities of the British people. Protecting our NHS, reducing our national debt, and improving the cost of living. There is a lot of speculation about the choices that I will make.
Of course there is.
I understand that. These are important choices that will shape the future of our country for years to come. I want people to understand the circumstances we are facing.
We're going to get blamed.
The principles guiding my choices, and why I believe they will be the right choices for our country. We are a country with considerable economic strengths, an open trading economy, a global hub for cutting-edge industries, from AI to biotech, with world-leading universities and scientific institutions, and a talented and a committed workforce.
But we're skinned.
But years of economic mismanagement has limited our country's potential, with long-term issues continually unchecked and potential unrealised. At the budget last year, I fixed the foundations, dealing with the aftermath of Liz Truss's disastrous mini-budget and the £22 billion black hole in the public finances left by the previous government.
Back there again, then.
I put our public finances back on a firm footing, provided an urgent cash injection into our faltering public services, and began rebuilding our economy.
Gave your mates a pay rise.
But since that budget, the world has thrown even more challenges our way. The continual threat of tariffs has dragged on global confidence, deterring business investment and dampening growth.
Trump's fault.
Inflation has been too slow to come down, as supply chains continue to be volatile.
Market's fault.
Meaning the costs of everyday essentials remain too high. And the cost of government borrowing has increased around the world, a shift that Britain, with our high levels of debt left by the previous government, has been particularly exposed to. And in an uncertain world, we also face pressure to increase our defence spending. And it is right that we do that, protecting ourselves from hostile actors and supporting our allies. And there are other pressures on the public finances.
Just say what you're going to do, love.
The Prime Minister, the Secretary of Work and Pensions, and this whole government are committed to reforming our welfare state so that it is not a system that counts the costs of failure, but one that invests in success and protects those who need it most. There is nothing progressive about refusing to reform a system that is leaving 1 in 8 young people out of education or employment. So we have begun the job of creating a system that protects people who cannot work and empowers those who can.
Going to mention breakfast clubs, any money?
And there are longer-term challenges too.
What?
That feeling, shared by millions of people across the country, that the economy isn't working as it should.
Because you're in charge of it.
Alongside the budget this month, the Office of Budget Responsibility, the UK's public finance watchdog, will set out the conclusions of their review of the supply side of the UK economy.
Just say it, love, I'm bored now.
I will not preempt those conclusions, but it is already clear that the productivity performance that we inherited from the last government is weaker than previously thought. A less productive economy is one that produces less output per hour
which
worked.
patently is going to happen.
That has consequences for working people, for their jobs and for their wages. And it has consequences for the public finances too, in lower tax receipts. It's not a question of how hard people work. Poor productivity means that we're putting in more, but getting out less. It means too many businesses and workers don't have the tools that they need. Trains that run on time, broadband that's fast and reliable, access to new technologies, or proper training. So
Just
people
tell
have
us the
right
truth,
skills
love.
for the job. For a long time, commentators have talked about Britain's productivity puzzle.
Shall I go to the loo?
It's
I'll
not
be
a
back.
puzzle.
Yeah?
The causes of our economic underperformance are well understood. The chronic stop-go cycle of public investment has left us with roads full of potholes, high energy prices,
Potholes now?
and unstable conditions for vital business investment in skills and technology.
Why don't you fill them then?
And long-term failure to invest in our regions has built growth on a narrow base, with some parts of the country forging ahead,
I'm going
while
to
others
tax you.
fall behind.
I'm going to tax you.
The truth is that previous governments have not adequately faced up to these challenges.
Seriously, love, can you get to the point?
Too often, political convenience has been prioritised over economic imperative. The decision to pursue a policy of austerity after the financial crisis dealt a hammer blow.
Hold her a minute. David Wooding, 10-second reaction. How long is it going to be before this woman who doesn't know how to add up just says, I'm going to raise your taxes?
Well, she's sort of breaking it to us gently is the most positive way I can frame that. She's telling us what all the problems are, and then she's going to hit us with it. Well, we know where it's going. It's like one of those long letters where it ends from the manager saying, but it ends, I'm sad, therefore, to let you know that your job has been relinquished.
Imagine if she finishes by saying, I'm sorry, I can't add up, I'm resigning. She looks physically sick to me. Well, keep going with it, because it's absolutely enthralling.
Our public services weakened and our economy fragile.
Yes.
And we finished the pandemic
To raise tax.
with higher death rates and higher debt than our peers. This isn't about relitigating old choices.
No.
It's about being honest with the people about the consequences that those choices have had.
So just be honest, you're going to raise taxes.
It is my job to deal with the world as we find it.
Nearly.
Not the world that I might wish it to be.
Oh.
Not to commentate or to speculate,
Having a go at me now.
but to act. In my Mays lecture last year, I set out our plan for solving our productivity problem through a programme of stability, investment and reform. And when I became Chancellor, I began to put that plan into action. Stabilising our public finances, making the tax and spending decisions to get debt down,
I
and
left
to
the
fund our
microphone
public
open
services
deliberately in case you're
sustainably.
worried.
Changing the fiscal rules to increase public investment by £120 billion over the course of this Parliament.
It's the only way I can get
And
through
crowding in
this.
private investment too,
By laughing a
for
little
road
bit.
and for rail, for housing and nuclear power, and reforming our economy, ripping up the planning rules so we can
I'd like
build
to
housing
talk to you, please,
and infrastructure right across the country.
Milk with one sugar, thank you.
Bringing the brightest and the best to
She's
our
still going
shores
on.
with a new visa regime, and signing trade deals with the EU, the US and India to help businesses export around the world. We've begun to see the results of those plans.
Hold on a second, listen, Steve says, looks like thieves had a sleepless night. I've never heard such a massive pile of manure blaming everybody and everything but herself and a pathetic, treacherous, lying bunch of Labour traitors. One consolation, they're due for extinction very soon. Rachel, it's not working with Steve. He's not impressed at all.
I don't expect anyone to be satisfied with growth of 1%.
Oh.
I'm not.
Oh.
And I know that there is more to do.
Oh.
The first part of our planning reforms will add an additional £6.8 billion to the size of our economy in the next 5 years. But the next part, our planning bill, must complete its passage through Parliament before it can make a difference.
Sean in Gloucester, if we lower a bit. He's quite direct. What a load of crap from racial thieves. Just resign, you moron. Brilliantly. Anna in Surrey. Labour needs to get her a voice coach. This is bloody awful. Andy in Hersham. Hersham boys, laced up boots and corduroy. He says you're on air. I know, I'm trying to get through it.
And the choices I make in this budget this month will be focused on getting inflation falling and creating the conditions for interest rate cuts to support economic growth.
Does she think we'll fall asleep by the time she announces it, or have gone to an ad break or left the country?
I understand the urge for easy answers. But politicians of recent years have become addicted to shelling out for short-term sticking plaster solutions rather than making long-term economic plans. They were irresponsible then. And those who continue to push for easy answers are irresponsible now.
Did you know about your licence for your house?
National debt now stands at £2.6 trillion.
Stop giving
equivalent to 94% of GDP. Before the mini-budget, our borrowing costs were in the middle of the pack compared to other advanced economies. But now, we have the highest borrowing costs of any G7 country. Today, 1 in every £10 of taxpayers' money is spent on debt interest. Not paying that debt down, but just paying the interest to our creditors. At the budget last year, I changed the fiscal rules to strike a careful balance. To invest more in capital alongside a credible plan to grow our economy and bring debt down within this Parliament. That was the right decision to break the cycle of low productivity and low growth. But that additional investment can only be delivered because markets know my commitment to the fiscal rules is ironclad.
Ironclad. Yeah.
Some people say that we should just sidestep those rules. That we can borrow more without consequence by simply reclassifying areas like defence or education. But no accounting trick can change the basic fact that government debt is sold on financial markets.
I reckon we could go to an ad break because we've got to see Yusuf and come back and she'll still be droning on. I'm done. Can I get a cup of tea, seriously, and a headache? A headache tablet. What in the name of the Lord? Pete says, fairness and opportunity. It's Richard III taking the mickey. They're gone, mate. It will cause outrage. Jeff even, good morning. Who writes these stupid Labour captions on the podium? I've got one. It says, Labour, do one. You're awful. I believe thieves talks about as much as I believe the BBC in terms of sense. What a load of old rubbish. Donald Trump, I've been playing a clip this morning, it won't bother you, but how the BBC doctored his panorama speech, which is appalling. He was quite vocal on Air Force One yesterday on Prince Andrew and the royal family. Let's have a listen.
I feel very badly. I mean, it's a terrible thing that's happened to the family. That's been a tragic situation. And it's too bad. I mean, I feel badly for the family.
This, of course, is all about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who yesterday might have been going to Abu Dhabi, today might be going to Sandringham. I made the point to you yesterday. Everybody's piled on. I don't like him. I think he deserves everything coming. But there's an interview with the man who's also been told that he has links with Epstein, and it's all on Andrew.
Well, yes, and this is quite interesting because there's quite a political kerfuffle going on in the States about it. Why haven't they released some of the stuff and feel that President Trump may be blocking some of the stuff that should be coming out in the States? So that's why, for Prince Andrew, he seems to, or Andrew as he is now, is as I say, the low-hanging fruit. It's an easy one, but it does also show President Trump's affection for the royal family, because obviously he had his second state visit recently, and he does have a huge soft spot. He's been quite open in his statements of what he thinks of the King and Prince William, who's obviously in Rio de Janeiro at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
So it is quite interesting how he has said that. But ultimately, that again sort of maybe deflects away from the real question that may be stirring in the United States about the whole Epstein issue, which is causing some political controversy, as I say.
You mentioned William. He's Earthshot Prize in Brazil. He's on Copacabana Beach without his shoes on. And lo and behold, the Ginger Whinger, in the midst of all of this publicity war, confirms he's going to Canada. What's that, skiing or to find a friendly elk? Do I care?
No. Well, he's gone actually part of the Remembrance Day services, obviously, around as a sort of 2-week build-up. It is interesting. By all accounts, it was cleared by the King. And it is actually quite interesting because what else is he doing at the moment? And this feels like another sort of quasi-royal visit, going to various military organisations within Canada, also supporting the Halo Trust, which was his mother's very significant charity that she launched back in the day. And so he is doing things that actually sort of show what he used to be good at. And we know he has a big soft spot for the military, but as you're quite right, this again does play off the William and Harry sort of PR game. But it also shows, whatever you think, that we do miss him doing this kind of thing. And he was good at it. And that is the problem. And you just wonder whether there is things going on that it sort of gives an olive branch that maybe there could be long-term down the line that he could see a way back. But it's a long way down the line. But I may have just said something that it's got you going there, Jeremy. But,
I think if Andrew hadn't been given the boot, William would have done that. And I think that William, when he becomes king, which sadly might be sooner rather than later, I don't think the Ginger Winger's got a look in. However, you talk about what you're good at. Meghan Markle has discovered what she's good at. She has been massively mocked for her latest Christmas recipe. Ladies and gentlemen, I jest you not, it's bloody boiled water. Have a watch.
Okay, so for holidays, I love having a really cozy, warm beverage that everyone can enjoy. And you could do teas, but you could also do a hot toddy or a spiced cider. I like to make a big pot for everyone. It's so easy. All you do, boil some water, enough for 8 servings, 10 servings. Once it's at a boil, turn it down, take the entire contents, and let it steep in the pot. Now, what happens when you do this? When people come into your house, they go, "It smells so good. What is that?" And you go, "Oh my gosh, let me offer you a drink." And then I would just add a couple details here to just embolden the flavor a bit. Honey adds a really special note. Cinnamon stick is so nice in there as well. You smell the cinnamon, you smell that lemongrass. You could also add a spirit of choice to make it a little bit more grown up, but just on its own, it's the most soothing, especially in cold weather.
Honestly, it smells so good. Yeah. So you walk into my house the morning after, it's an Indian curry and the kid's nappy that's been changed. I honestly, really?
Really. I mean, it's so mind-numbing. I mean, what that is the lowest of the low, because what do lots of people do? I'll tell you what I go out and do is I boil a kettle. I just go and pluck some mint leaves off my bush of mint and put it in and steep it. That's what. That seems to me.
But I mean, I'm just thinking on the bigger context. She used to be the Duchess of whatever. She's married to.
Yeah.
It's this inane waste of time that she thinks that anybody gives a damn about what she does to boiling water. I don't know how she's given the chance to keep doing this, Belly. Honestly.
Well, no, because she's trying to flog her as ever brand. It was her as ever honey. It's proper as ever cinnamon.
Why doesn't she as ever just do one?
Well, I mean, it's so mind-numbingly trite that it just needs to... But unfortunately, she thinks it's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's not even mulled wine, as mulled wine should be steeping for hours and have a flavour. Yes, have the non-alcoholic version. But I mean, I was talking on a program I did about the fact that someone told me she just leaves mugs out the night before in preparation for people to come round to the house. I mean, what a load of baloney that is. Anyway, you've got me going. Meghan, I'm fired up for the rest of the day because that is twaddle of the highest order. And if people are I'm sorry, but people are falling for that, giving it an extra twist with a bit of honey. Give me a sick bag.
Let's move on to that appalling story yesterday about the BBC. Did you see that Dr. Trump speech? Did you see it?
Yes.
For people who are tuning in, I do want to play it again because the BBC is under pressure today. There's new accusations about the coverage of the Israeli-Hamas conflict, and there's accusations that they've minimised Israeli suffering, the BBC, still refusing to call Hamas a terrorist organisation. This is yet another example of how our state broadcaster is a biased, ideologically based, left-wing, bloated waste of space. This was yesterday. For anybody who missed it, firstly, you'll see what Panorama, one of their main news stations, shows, put out about Donald Trump over the Capitol riots. And then you'll see what he actually said. It's unbelievable. Play it, please, Marky.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Nigel Evans, being serious for a moment, what on earth needs to be done about the BBC? Because I think they are well past their sell date, genuinely.
No, I agree, actually, and I very rarely, and I mean rarely, watch the BBC, and I haven't done so for 10 years, because I've always seen it as biased, but never more so than when it is engineered in the way that it is. There are two sorts of biasness. There's the bias where you think, well, actually, the interviewer is clearly coming from a certain political mindset.
Yeah.
When you actually start splicing videos to say something completely different, indeed the opposite to what somebody intended to say, I think that is sinister. A fish rots from the head down, and Tim Davie has to go. It's absolutely no two ways about it. Tim Davie has got to take responsibility for this. So you've got the Donald Trump stuff, and now you've got the report saying that they are basically anti-Israel, and in the reporting that they are doing on the BBC Foreign Service is absolutely appalling. I was thinking actually yesterday about the Donald Trump story, and Tim Davie is absolutely silent. I've been looking to see what he's been saying, and he's absolutely been saying...
Well, think about the Bob Villan guy at Glastonbury. He was there. He allowed that to be streamed for 5 hours. Yeah. Blatant anti-Semitism. I don't know how Tim Davie survives. I don't know why the government or somebody in authority is not calling for his immediate resignation. We're all about
to pay a ton more money in the licence because this government is now deciding, even though, and it's absolutely provable, that fewer and fewer people in this country are watching the BBC. They're getting their entertainment from Netflix or from Amazon. They are going on YouTube. They are looking at your channel. They are looking at GB News. They're looking at a variety of sources. And the BBC is diminishing every year. And yet we're all being forced to pay more money for it.
I've never believed, Nigel. I've never believed in the environment that we are in and how terrestrial television and every single part of broadcasting and media has changed, how the BBC has the gall, to not be a subscription-based organisation. If it is about quality, if it is about not even quality, if it's about what you're offering, then you get judged by the people who want to be involved in that. They have sat there for years and taken the money. But what's even worse than that, because politicians seemingly don't want to do anything about it, what's worse is they are absolutely ideologically based, and without being conspiratorial again. When you look at what we've talked about in terms of education, what's being pushed on our kids, what's being pushed on us by our state broadcaster, disgusting.
Yeah, and whilst the licence fee continues, they're going to continue in the same vein as they always have done over the decades. times have moved on. I mean, I mentioned a number of sources where people are getting their news. A lot of youngsters are getting their news from Instagram and TikTok. The bleeding reality is what it is. And so for us to continue to supporting a fossilized system, which has now been proven to be completely biased by engineering, I think is, listen, I don't want my money to go to this organization, full stop.
A year ago today, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump won the US presidential election, become the 47th president. He not only won the college vote, he won the national vote, confounding everybody, but I personally think I could have beaten Kamala Harris with a hat on. He won his term, he was sworn into office in January, and quite a lot has happened since. Let's just give you a couple of examples before we head stateside. Let's get him. This is my favourite clip of all time. This is Donald Trump dealing with Starmer as only he could, and God, I wish more would do the same. Go for it, Donald.
United Kingdom. Where's United Kingdom? Where's my friend? Where? Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
That's very nice that you're here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice. And I think it's fantastic. And we have so many others, and just so many others.
Thank you for coming up, you odious, useless creep. Now just disappear back. What about, this is my favourite latest one, he's spending $300 billion, no, $300 million on a new ballroom. He's ripping down the East Wing. He's just, this is him. And when he gets criticised, this is his response. This is the ballroom clip. This is brilliant as well.
Mr. President, what are you doing up there?
Taking a little room. Come down and talk to us. Yeah.
What are you building?
Garden, look. Both with the ballroom, which is on the other side. Are you considering more renovations, sir? Won't be there.
Are you going to build up?
Aye, sir.
Doesn't care. God, don't you wish we could have somebody with that just nerve in this country. Let's cross to Phoenix. So we're going to Phoenix, Arizona. I once went there. It was bloody hot at 4 o'clock in the morning. From Arizona Morning News, LaDonna Harvey, welcome to Talk Breakfast. How are you?
Hello, Jeremy. Good to be there.
That is the greatest voice ever. Can you just do that again, please? That is fantastic. Do that again.
Good morning, Jeremy. It's good to be there.
I loved Phoenix. Great golf courses in Arizona. Love Phoenix. LaDonna, let's talk about the Donald. I know in your country he's a figure that sort of cuts down the middle. The same in this country, but there are many people in this country who would crave having a politician who very simply, love him or loathe him, tells you what he's going to do. And shock horror, bloody well does it. How refreshing.
It's unusual in politics, and but Donald is his own guy. President Trump, in the year of his second term, and keeping in mind that we've done this dance before, in the year since he's been elected, has continued to just poke holes in people, prod them, and not care what they think about anything at all, no matter what he's doing.
What is the feeling, Donna? What is the feeling in in the country? I mean, we hear about we talked about this. Zoran Mamdani has been elected in New York. He's a communist, isn't he? But that's according to Trump. What do American people think? Because certainly he's cured the immigration problem on the border. He'll say he's ended 8 wars, and love him or loathe him, what he's managed to do in the Middle East, no politician had done in America for 20 years. We know he does politics differently, but he's a doer, isn't he?
Well, I mean, he is. The interesting thing about him is he has a certain amount of bluster about him. He is very much a typical New Yorker, unlike us Phoenicians who are too hot to be that hot under the collar 90% of the time. But that bluster worked in the Middle East, which all of the diplomacy that we've tried over the last bajillion years has been completely unsuccessful in the Middle East in trying to get some sort of peace, just even a ceasefire, just everybody lay down your arms and talk. At this point, this guy's the one who does it. Now, you can love him or you can hate him, but you have fewer people dying over there because of the way that he approached that particular bit of diplomacy. It worked. You can't deny it.
Let's talk about Democrat Zohran Mamdani. Wins the New York mayoral election last night, sweeping to victory. The 34-year-old Democrat turned his attention to Donald Trump, yelling, "I know you're watching." These people, he's only 34. Even his own Democratic Party didn't support him. Whether this is a protest vote or not, is this the future of America? Zohran Mamdani, is he going to be running for president sometime soon?
Well, he might. I wouldn't put any money on his chances at success. He's also a product of New York. New York is its own world. For anybody who's ever been to the United States, all the rest of us look at New York and go, "What is wrong with you people?"
I lived there 3 years. I know exactly what I mean. Do you know the first day I sat on the stoop, I'd gone to do the show, I sat on the stoop of our new house down on 56, wherever it was, I've no idea, down on the video, and I literally was sat there with a drink, and a man came past me, don't offend anybody, on a skateboard, on my life, with a cigarette in his mouth, a monkey on his shoulder, in a tutu, and I thought, welcome to bloody New York City. That is absolutely true story.
That is absolutely New York. You have New York and Los Angeles, and then you have all the rest of us in between, like a bunch of dead armadillos in the middle of a Texas road. You know, we just don't even know what to do at this point. We're stunned and possibly infected with a weird disease. We don't know.
Listen, so good to have you on. Have you ever seen the Donald Trump new watch clip? Have you ever seen this? Because I'm going to play you out with this, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. From K-Star, Phoenix, Arizona, we are from the Arizona Morning. She's in the makeup room. I want a job on your stations. I hate net zero, and I think it's a waste of money, and I think people need to do it. Yesterday, on a tour of Aberdeen, Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader, said that Britain is facing an oil and gas emergency as Labour's net zero push, this mad push, decimates jobs. She says that the offshore oil and gas sector risks vanishing altogether, triggering swathes of job losses across Scotland. I'd love your response to that this morning, because it's the truth, isn't it?
It is the truth, and it's bizarre, because when I'm listening to your segment, some of your listeners, I'm sure, will sort of feel like they're living in an episode of the 1970s. We've got a government which is in chaos. We've got social problems in this country, but there is one important difference, Jeremy. One important difference. Previous generations of Labour leaders were patriotic, and they put this country first. And you had leaders like Jim Callaghan and others who did everything they possibly could to be able to try to see if we could get the North Sea oil and gas online. And we have them to thank today for why we have that sector. But it's in decline. And we've had successive Tory and Labour politicians that have run that sector into the ground, and they are putting our security, they're putting our energy security at risk. They're putting thousands of jobs at risk as well. There is no reason. Yes, it's a mature basin, but there are decades ahead in terms of what we can get out of there in terms of potential. Couple that together with what we've got onshore, we've got more than enough oil and gas to keep our country going for another 60 years. You listen to the sector and they will tell you it is policy, not geology, as to why we can't make a success of it. And I'll tell you why we're not making a success of it. It's because we've got politicians, cynical politicians like Ed Miliband, who will pretend that they are doing everything they possibly can to help protect the jobs in the North Sea and all of that. But really, he wants this to be run down into the ground so that it serves his strategic ends to say that we have to get off international fossil fuels, and this is why we need to accelerate towards net zero. It's cynical, it's wrong, it's unpatriotic, and I'm glad to hear that Kemi Badenoch, I know it's galling, the Conservatives didn't do enough when they were in office, but I'm really glad to see them finally getting off and standing up for the North Sea.
It's really interesting, isn't it, that the Tory party now want to leave the ECHR. The Tory party now understand that net stupid zero is basically just bankrupting this country on an altar of ridiculous ideology. I saw something very quickly, we haven't got long, a Sky News thing. 68% of people are concerned about the climate. I'm sure lots of people are concerned about the climate, but I think people would also, if they're very honest, understand that financially this country is on its backside and it cannot afford this madness. And Morris, we're on a mission, you and me. I don't know what we're going to call it, the Net Zero Daily Moan, I've no idea, but I completely am with you. It's too much money. 30 seconds, isn't it? Ridiculous.
It's absurd. And listen, I'm going to pull you up there on some of your stats. Listen, it is true that people care about the climate, but relative to things like the cost of living and growth, it is not as important to them. People care about what's happening to their bank balances and what's happening to their jobs and what's happening to their bills. And that's what I would think politicians should be focused on. We've got people like Keir Starmer flying off to Brazil at the moment to go and do this nonsense with COP. Manifest arrant nonsense what he's doing there. We've got the world's highest industrial electricity prices. That's not climate leadership at all. No one is following us.
Written on the front of the Amazing Sun newspaper by the brilliant Clemmy Moody, Meghan Markle, God, having failed at making jam, potpourri and coloured water, flavoured water, is making a return as a movie star. Rupert Bell, a very good morning, sir. Royal correspondent today, table tennis correspondent tomorrow. How are you, Belly?
Very good, and I'm going to the Aston Villa game tonight as well as a season ticket holder, so there you go.
Well, let me ask you straight away your response to that. Why should we ban Jewish football fans from anywhere in the United Kingdom? Who the hell do these people think they are?
I personally don't see why they have. Last year we had Legia Warsaw fans who were banned from the ground, but they have, although there has been some Maccabi Tel Aviv issues with their fans, obviously it was a decision taken given the sort of maybe the people thinking of what's around the area around, which is a heavily Asian community around Aston, so maybe they feel that that's the problem. But
well, we've been playing videos this morning of a certain young man who's activating lots of Muslims to come and be anti-Jewish and calling them genocidal scum. Let's talk about Meghan Markle. We talked the other day about flavoured water. We've talked about jam. We've talked about how this woman tries to reinvent herself when in fact she should just go away somewhere. Today, I'm Meghan a movie. And this is the best bit, she's so bleeding sycophantic, she's going to star in a movie as herself.
Yes, Close Personal Friends is the name of the movie, and she's doing a cameo. Look, Donald Trump did a cameo in Home Alone, and cameos are quite often the thing. So I imagine it was only 2 days filming, a bit of glad handing and feeling special, and away she goes. Now, she wasn't an actress in Suits, which I'm sad to say have yet to watch an episode of Suits, but it was popular and she was one of the lead characters in it. But as Harry has supposedly said, well, I'm happy she's out doing what she wants to do. But at the moment, she's trying absolutely everything and hoping something sticks. And that is the problem at the moment. Her jam or spread or whatever that she has, saying that she's made and with love and all that. Fine, she's desperate to try and make a fast buck and be relevant, and maybe going back to acting, which is what she did before, is a way of doing it. But can you see her being a lead in a film?
Well, I was going to tell I told a story earlier and people were like, I can't believe that. The boys and I go on a golf trip once a year to Florida, and it's a really, really set sort of schedule. Get up early, big breakfast, go and play golf, have a few drinks, spend the afternoon chilling, then go out for dinner. It's 8 days, every single afternoon. And listen, I lived in America. There's thousands of television channels to pick from. We only watch repeats of Deal No Deal from the late 90s and early 2000s with Howie, because they're on box 23, looking as dumb as ever, like this, is Meghan Markle. I think you said it right. She'll do anything for a fast buck, but also for attention, Belly. Come in, Alex. Don't worry about that. Come in. I'm talking to Belly. All right.
I would say she is desperate for attention, and this is all part of her craving, always trying to be relevant, and obviously this is coming out when the news about William is down in Brazil doing his Earthshot work, which is obviously attracting a little bit of controversy with all Keir Starmer down there and Ed Miliband down there. But for William, this is a serious thing that he's involved in, but it does seem to, with the COP element, be taken over by a lot of politicians. So William is out on his sort of front line, as it were, but inevitably we get Harry going to Canada in the Remembrance story, and now we've got a story about Meghan returning to acting, and which will, and clearly, as you see, it's on the front page of The Sun, has upstaged William's work with regard to Earthshot.
It is frighteningly, embarrassingly worrying, isn't it? The royals are all about who can get the front page.
We know what's coming, folks. We're basically running the economy into the ground as a result of this Labour government, and things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. Let's get reaction to the big stories of the day with the political commentator and broadcaster, a very old friend of mine, Benedict Spence. Benedict, top of the morning to you.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very, very well indeed, and a major headache for the BBC. Look at this front page in the Telegraph today. Davey must explain or quit, says Johnson. Boris Johnson has led calls for Tim Davey, the BBC's Director General, to explain or resign over the bias scandal engulfing the broadcaster. Your reaction?
I think it's been a long time coming, ultimately. It's been a sort of a slow beginnings of an avalanche for the BBC, and now we're beginning to see, obviously also with the Martin Croxall story, an example of several cases where actually, you know, what the BBC thinks is perfectly acceptable behaviour is just not in line with what the public expects from its state broadcaster, especially seeing as everybody's having to sort of pay through the nose for this sort of thing. When it comes to Tim Davies' position, I suspect he won't resign, but certainly senior people have to answer for this. It's unacceptable that this sort of thing can be allowed to, excuse me, carry on going, and there not be very significant repercussions higher up. And I think also there need to be questions, therefore, about the way in which different departments conduct themselves. I mean, what's going on at Panorama? BBC Verify might be another one where perhaps questions should be asked about what it is that these people, what these so-called journalists, to pardon the pun, get up to on their spare time on the taxpayers' money. And we do need to remind ourselves of that. It is illegal for people to consume any kind of televisual media of any sort without paying the fee to fund this sort of thing.
Most definitely. A lot of messages coming in about this current government. Good morning, Mark, says Sean. The Labour Party sleaze, corruption, incompetence is utterly relentless. Blair started all of the problems we have today, and things have got steadily worse under Keith Stalin and his mob, who have supercharged the lunacy. We now punish victims and treat criminals like royalty. We have no borders. Public services have failed. We're bankrupt, etc., etc., etc. And woke ideology has infected everything. The change we now need is massive and needs to be soon, or we are truly finished. LIBOR must go, says Sean. Well, Sean may get his wish in 3 or 3.5 years' time, with a new poll suggesting that even with tactical voting against reform's best interests, Nigel Farage becomes Britain's next Prime Minister.
I think on current trajectory that is certainly the case, and I think frankly you can see why. Honestly, the fact that you've now got a situation where the Green Party might be conceivably outpolling Labour nationally, or at least going toe-to-toe with them, should be a sign of simply how catastrophic this Labour government has been. And of course, lots of people on the left will point to that and say, but then therein lies the possibility for some sort of left-wing coalition. But it's not going to be that. This is going to be in sort of very die-hard Labour areas in the south of England, around London, and what have you, where that sort of support is really manifesting, if anywhere. These aren't going to be the sorts of seats that somebody like Reform is going to be targeting at all. It's still a very long way off, and I think we need to remember that there's still every possibility that something changes. But equally, as Nigel Farage himself thinks, something could happen to sort of precipitate this election happening much sooner. The problem with that is, in the economic sort of disaster zone that I think would herald that in, a lot of people would be very badly hurt as a result of the policies of this government. So it's a difficult thing. Do you want to wait 3.5 years and things sort of stay as bad as they are now? Or do you want to speed run the whole thing and people get very, very badly burned in the short term just to facilitate a change of government in the long term?
Why are so many people being released accidentally from prison under this Labour government? The numbers have noticeably jumped in the last 12 months.
Oh, for a laugh. No, I mean, it's honestly, we should laugh at this because, frankly, what else are you going to do if not laugh and cry? But of course, this is a very serious thing. You know, these are not, sort of very petty criminals that are being released. It is a high-profile issue, and it sort of flies in the face, frankly, of suggestions that Labour are getting tough on the prison system and that they're working particularly hard to overcome the legacy issues of the Conservative Party, of which there were many. This is, I think, simply down to the fact that the prison system and the Ministry of Justice more broadly, suffers the deepest of cuts when it comes to spending cuts. You know, not things like welfare or anything like that. It's prisons, it's law and order, which is the exact opposite way around that it should be. But, you know, I think we also have to juxtapose this against a series of stories over the last however many years it is, of, for instance, large amounts of drugs being smuggled into prisons, of prison staff having affairs with prisoners, of prison staff being affiliated to organizations that are known to prisoners on the inside. Very clearly, there has been a catastrophic breakdown at multiple levels of how our prisons are run. And if you want to know the answer as to why it is that people are now being accidentally released, therein probably lies your answer. Incompetence.
Most definitely. Well, listen, that's not something you're guilty of. You had huge success with Pimlico Plumbers, and now you're back with WeFix.
WeFix London, yeah.
And you're basically starting in the capital. You're going to go national, and you're probably going to overtake Pimlico at some point, aren't you?
Undoubtedly. Yeah, things are going very well for WeFix London at the moment. The only thing that can mess it up, I think, is Labour government with their workers' rights, if I'm being honest. For me, it's going to be such a disaster to give somebody, you know, rights from the first day they get there. You know, you get rid of them next day, they can do you for unfair dismissal. I mean, it's crazy if you think about it, Mark, because you have to give people a trial and work out whether you want them or you don't. But I think here you're going to get people get a job that don't really want it and then walk out the next day and then start having a scream up. So it's a crazy idea. I'm surprised that they need a think tank to come up with the idea. I mean, this was, you know, predictable, you know, when they sort of come up with this idea, they're going to change it. And I think it was Rayner that come up with the idea that now they're obviously going to try and pass it through Parliament, which they will get it passed because they've obviously got the votes.
Yeah.
House of Lords are having a scream up at the moment because anybody with any common sense at all will know it's a total disaster to bring in. I mean, the worst one they can bring in is workers' rights from day one. I mean, employers don't want to get rid of people. The idea is we want to employ more people. So it costs us money to have to get rid of them. But this is just, I would say it's probably the worst thing I've ever heard in workers' rights.
Yes, because if someone comes and works for you, there's a probation period to make sure that you're right for them and that they're right for you.
Of course.
And you could get someone that's incompetent and lazy and you fire them after one day, and like you said, you can face a tribunal, which is a major headache and a major cost for particularly a small business.
Well, yeah, employers just won't take the chance. You will not take the chance of that you can't get rid of somebody, and, you know, they all come across in the interview well, and then they get to work, and then they're slomming all over the desk, some of these people.
Yeah, because sometimes you've met people, I mean, you've got a good eye for talent, but you'll have employed someone that was impressive in the interview and turned out to be a dud. It must happen.
Well, it happens, but I don't slip up that often myself.
Right.
You're joking. I mean, you know, they stick out like a sore thumb to me. But on saying that, some people can be very deceiving. It's just, it's unfair for the employer to have to be under that pressure. So as a business owner, you're going to employ less people, you're going to take less chances, and many businesses, again, will close down because of it, because they're not going to replace staff. You cannot take the chance of having somebody with you and they're no good or they're not what you want. I mean, you've got... Look, I think at the moment it's a 2-year probationary before they get the rights. How can you go from 2 years to 1 day? I mean, maybe common sense, maybe a year or something before you get to probably know somebody. But it will get implemented, and, you know, Rayner, who's come up with the idea, she's never employed anybody in her life, and she probably never will. And would we really take any notice of what she come up with?
I think that's unfair. She's kept a few estate agents busy, but that's another story, isn't it? Also, this would be sickness benefits as well, bereavement leave, enormous costs on companies. And it's my understanding that when there are unfair dismissal claims, quite often companies just settle because it's easier than having a long tribunal and a legal process.
You're exactly right. I mean, as I say, you're 1-0 down if you go tribunal. All the costs, all the expense, but it's the, you know, the upsetting it causes on the company, but it's going to
company time.
There's so much against it. I mean, so if they had any common sense at all, they wouldn't even think of it. There's other ideas they're coming up with which they want to implement, and yes, I think it's fairness in the workplace. Of course it is, but it's unfair to the employer to have to put up with that pressure with somebody. And, you know, I'm a great believer, if you don't want that person or not suitable for your business, they've got to go, haven't they?
So what's going to happen to the economy, to unemployment?
Well, the economy will crash. The economy will crash even worse. More and more business people or job creators, investors will leave the country, that's for sure. You know, I've already left, thank God.
Yeah.
And the business I have is in, you know, in the family business, and they comply with all the UK tax regulations. But the only thing that could take We Fix London out of business is Labour with their employment law changes and what they want to implement.
What are your thoughts about the wider direction of the country, including current levels of illegal and legal immigration?
Right, OK, I need to be careful there. We need to put a stop on it. I mean,
By the way, you don't have to be careful on my watch. If you can say what you think, because talk is the home of common sense.
Oh, well, I say, OK, well, look, we need to, you know, stop allowing them in the country. We need to get rid of as many as we can. We need to cut our spending down. I think Rachel Reeves is trying to bring money in on taxing more working people and making life more difficult. But if she cuts the spending down, we need to put a stop on them immediately and deport all of them that arrived in the last 2 years. And I think you'll find...
Would that be legal and illegal?
Well,
would it be both?
Do we need them here? I mean, if they're not working, do we need them here? I mean, I don't believe we did. The job market's going down. More and more people are unemployed. We just don't need them here. I mean, as simple as that. You know, yes, people are going to be belly aching this morning that certain migrants are needed, but, you know, these are not the migrants that we need here. These people are coming here for one reason only, for benefits.
What do you make of this headline in today's Telegraph? Migrant pensioners too old and lonely to deport, judges rule. Migrants are successfully claiming asylum on the grounds that they're pensioners and should see out their lives in Britain.
Well, again, I think it's crazy, you know, that we don't look after our own people, we don't look after our own veterans. Why would you want to look after people that have came here and are poncing off the country? I mean, I'll be blunt with you, they're just ponces. You know?
How do you feel the country has changed since you set up your business as a young man, having left school at a young age?
Yeah, well, has it changed? I think there's no incentive now. I think you're being penalised. I mean, you know, to run a successful company or become wealthy or create jobs or to train people, you're like bad news. Or what a terrible person, you know. He makes people work and he pays them well and he makes lots of money out of them. What a terrible person. So we've gone from a buzzing sort of nation that could get back to the top to, you know, work's a bad thing kind of thing. The biggest problem we've got, Mark, is paying people for not doing nothing.
Yeah. Well, what do you make of the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer? Can he get on top of these problems facing the country?
No, not at all. I mean...
what's the problem with him?
Well, he's a waste of time. I mean, he's not a leader, he's a follower. I don't really think he's in the real world. He doesn't look like he's with it to me half the time. And
what do you mean by that? Doesn't look
well,
like
he don't look like he's awake, does he? He looks like, you know, the lights are on but no one's there kind of thing. I mean, he was a wrong choice. I mean, the question I will say of him, Rayner, Reeves, Lammy, would you employ them? And the answer's no. And yet we're letting them run the country. So the quicker he goes, the quicker reform get in, and Nigel Farage is Prime Minister, that's the only hope I believe the UK's got.
So you've interviewed lots of people, you can spot talent a mile off. Is Nigel Farage a quality candidate for Britain's next Prime Minister?
Undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. There's nobody better out there at the moment than him.
Why do you say that? What are his qualities that attract you?
Well, his qualities are that he makes things happen. You know, he'll say something, he'll get it moving, and he doesn't put up with all the nonsense and all the woke people and all the weirdos that, you know, don't agree with getting things right. He's got common sense and he's got drive about him. And he will also work with business people, knowing that, you know, business people know how to run this country.